Good afternoon. We're going to give folks a couple minutes to join us for this week's Tuesday coaching sessions. As always, I'm Brian Doyle, and I'm excited to see those that have had a moment to join today. I'm excited about this one. I love storytelling, both being the guy talking. There's no shock there to many of you who've attended things, but really, when you find a good storyteller, it's almost like you can be transported to a new place. And that's really what we're going to talk about today is, how we can utilize the storytelling process to really help you better engage with your customer, start help guiding them to the next step and move from there. But, I'd like to give just one more minute for folks to stumble in. I saw quite a few registered, but only a few have arrived so far. So we'll give everybody just another moment and we'll kick things off. All right, so we've got a few people starting to come in. Well, it's now a couple of minutes after 3, so we'll kick things off. For those of you that don't know me, and it might be your first time stopping by our open coaching session, my name's Brian Doyle. I am one of the co-founders here at BCIO Toolbox. In this week's session, while we will be drifting into areas of the tools, really about engaging with your customer during the QBR and how to bring a little bit more excitement into the conversation and really help drive success by kind of guiding your customer to a result. So, so with that being said, we'll kick things off here with our discussion being around, really engagement of a customer overall. So, to kick things off, let's talk a little bit about why storytelling. So I don't know about you guys. I attend a number of conference events, but more importantly, I've got friends, right? I'm sure you all do too. Folks that you interact with, get together with for dinners on the weekend. Some of them might have been professional relationships that converted. Some are old friends. But, what's usually central to those events when you're standing by the bar at a trade show, or if you are meeting, with your friends in your personal life? Stories come up, right? Everybody's sharing a story. Could be as simple as what they did that day to really telling about, bigger things that have happened in their lives. And the beauty of a story is it really gives you the ability to draw people into the experience that you want to share and make themselves feel like they're the central character, right? The emotion we're trying to evoke with them is really getting them to feel like, hey, that's me that's experiencing what you're telling me about. And now I get where you're coming from. So we really want to start looking at how can we engage the art of storytelling into delivering our QBRs. And the one thing I always say to everybody when you're embarking on a QBR, at the end of the day, it's about them. One of my least favorite things that I've come to see when I'm working with a lot of MSPs, and a few of them invite me for ride-alongs from time to time on their QBR experience so I can see how they're doing things out in the field. And one of the things that I find frustrating is when I see the financial report delivery. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, think about just a stockholder financial report. It's all matter of fact. It's to the numbers. There's not a whole lot of emotion behind it. These are the earnings. This is where we're going. This is what's changed, right? It's just the facts, nothing but the facts. And too often I see people going into their QBR events doing that. They come in with their performance reports. They're concerned about how many tickets we solved and justifying what they did. So it really becomes almost like a financial report. Last month, Mr. Customer, we took on 162 tickets, 42 of which are open still. We finished those with a 97% SLA. We've got 3 that are been escalated. And in addition to that, we'll now talk about our machine variables. We're up to date on our patches, except 3 machines, and blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of a show up and throw up of all the statistical information that we do behind the scenes, but it's not drawing the customer in. And for those of you that might be struggling with getting attendance at your QBRs, look at how you're presenting a little bit. would you want to go to that meeting, right? If you're a shareholder and you attend a stock, a financial disclosure meeting for a stock that you've got, you're invested into, if the stock's flat, you're probably not going to go, right? Because you'll go when you're hearing about movement, you'll hear when there's losses and how they're going to change things. But once it becomes the same repetitive story and there's not a whole lot of action, you're going to stop attending those financial analyses. And that's really what we're trying to ensure doesn't happen here. How do we build our QBRs that there's something in it for the CEO, something in it for the CFO, something in it for those key stakeholders and line of business managers who just might not understand the technology, but understand the story, right? So that's why we want to really implement some storytelling. Now, what really makes a good story, And it really starts, when you think about it, a story, think about any movie you've seen, and I'm going to allude to a couple in a moment. It really starts with the characters and setting the story. So who are the characters in the story when you're going to a QBR? It's those personalities sitting across from the table. So you need to know the CEO, kind of what their personality traits are like, how they engage with you, the CFO, how they engage with you. You guys are all characters in this moment, in this meeting, in this story that you're building. Also, as part of our story, we want to make sure that we're identifying the conflict. Any movie you've ever watched, it starts with setting the table, giving backstory about those characters, getting you familiar with them, drawing you in so you actually care about them. And then there's some sort of conflict that ensues, a problem that comes in that they now need to take care of. And one of the amazing things you'll see is almost anytime there's a conflict, there's a guide, somebody that helps that person who's seeing that conflict, basically generate a plan and then calls them to action within that plan. So you'll see up here one of my favorite movies, and I'm sorry, yes, you're going to see a couple older movies from me for those of you that are younger than I am. But these are a couple of my favorite movies from the past. And what you're looking at here is kind of Moneyball, right? And for those of you that are familiar with Moneyball, it's the movie about Billy Beane and how he's got a small market baseball club trying to, keep pace with the Yankees and the Dodgers of the world without having the budget available to it and constantly losing the players that are great. Now, to make this story real and make it a movie, quite frankly, you couldn't just have Billy Beane working out these problems in his own head. First, there'd be no dialogue, right? So they created a Sherpa, a guide, Peter Brand, played by Jonah Hill over there on the right-hand side, who really became the person who helped guide Billy Beane through his conflict. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can be the Sherpa when we're working with our customers and help guide them through the conflict that we introduce to them. But the big thing is this Sherpa is a big part of calling a plan to action. It even, if you go back to Castaway, think about that movie, right? Besides being amazing that Tom Hanks could keep us all captivated as a one person during that movie, they still created Wilson, right? It may have been an inanimate object. It may have been something else, but it is the guide that Tom Hanks looked to in this crazy situation, abandoned on an island that he had, to really help him drive the action he needed to take to hopefully someday get off that island, right? So the point I want to make is, as we're working in our QBRs, we're building a story in that meeting. We're putting a narrative together, and we're the guide that's going to help our customers through that conflict. And that's where we build leadership in the relationship as well. And then finally, we want to demonstrate how it ends in its success. Most movies we go to have a happy ending, right? Occasionally we run into movies that don't. But the point is, eventually it gets, the guide is helping the central character get past that conflict. And when we can do that in our story that we're building with our customer, it really becomes powerful and it becomes a much more engaging QBR event with our customers. So how do we all relate? And I've kind of alluded to this already. If I go back to that picture of good old Billy Beane and his friend Peter Brand here, Billy Beane is the customer, right? Billy is the guy that has a conflict. He's trying to figure out how to keep pace with all these teams that are just bankrolled much higher than him. And he's also trying to fight the conflict of himself, a failed baseball player who was drafted high and who didn't believe in the way that baseball supported him early in his career. So now enter Peter Brand. Peter Brand is not only going to help him work on the conflict that gets him through the monetary problems and helps him build a team based on statistics and all the great things that Moneyball's about, but he also helps Billy work through his own problems as well. And if we can get to a point where we're understanding the emotion behind the things that our customer needs, it's going to give us a lot of capability when we build out these reports and we engage with our customer long term. So, what are we really trying to do? We're trying to lead our customers on a journey of before and after. When we meet them, they've got problems, right? If we just acquired that customer, they may be leaving an MSP that didn't quite fulfill their obligations, so they're giving us a shot. They may have problems in their technology and they were under supported, and now we need to come in and get them straightened away. And we need to build a story and we need to build a plan that's going to drive the outcomes and make them feel great along the way, right? So, another thing I want you to take away from this whole storytelling conversation today is when you're building your QBRs, the critical component is driving the outcome, helping the customer understand how the conflict they're facing, the things that might be out of compliance or problems they might have in their technology, limiting their ability to be efficient and productive, how you're going to change that result through the solutions you put in front of them and how you're going to make them feel when they do that, right? I don't think we put a lot of stock, a lot of us, in technology really can innovate a company. And it can invoke a feeling. We don't take enough credit. By and large, most technical people I've run into, they're not braggarts, right? They're guys that really genuinely have a desire to serve, and they serve through the skills that they possess. But you need to take a step back and go, hey, am I driving better outcomes? Let me get the feedback as well as part of this process. And if I understand those outcomes, I can better serve the client as well. So we want to make sure that as we're storytelling, we're letting our customers help us build the story as we go through our QBRs and really give us the ammunition to enhance the story and build upon it from meeting to meeting. So let's talk about how we tell the story in real life in QBRs. I've now dazzled you with movies from the past and shared with you some of the things that I tend to love in life. But now let's talk about how we start the story when it comes to presenting, especially presenting utilizing VCIO Toolbox. So what you're looking at here is our strategy page, right? And our strategy page is a great place to introduce the characters and understand what they're about and what their desires are, right? First thing we're doing with them is identifying where they're trying to go. Goals and challenges are merely the outcomes that they're looking to get to and the obstacles in the way of them achieving those outcomes, right? So when I look at business goals and business challenges, I really want to understand where that customer's taking their business so I can better understand what's going to make them happy if we can achieve it and what's going to help them drive the success that they're looking for. I want to share with them why we are the right one to get them there. So during this period of building out a strategy plan with our customers, I'm introducing myself as the Sherpa that's going to help them, right? And the way I can do that in a strategy plan is by looking at them and saying, look, my job here in working with you is to help be a better partner to you by better understanding where you're trying to take your business. I want to be more transparent in this process, gain trust, gain confidence as we're going through this, right? To be the guy or, to be that resource that can help you identify technological solutions that may support these goals and help you drive productivity, security, profit, whatever you're looking for based on these goals back into your business. So we've got to make sure that as we're building out this strategy piece, that we're really helping them understand we want to be a better partner to them by better understanding their goals, that we want to build transparency in the relationship, and that really we're here to arm them with information so they can make more informed decisions. And we're not here to force feed projects down their throat. And if you get called to the carpet on why you think that, you're going to be showing me projects, yeah, but they got to pass a litmus test, Mr. Customer. If I can't show alignment of a project to one of these goals and challenges that we're building here together, probably shouldn't be part of your plan yet, right? It's not something you're ready for. So this is where we gain the trust and really show them that we're the right one to be there, to be their guide, to be that partner in crime, if you will, as they build out their overall plan for their business. And then we have to make sure that as we're working, we're constantly communicating the progress. Peter Brand didn't try to help Billy Beane in one day. All his help came over the course of the season. There was little wins at steps in the journey that ultimately led them to the point, which, believe it or not, the happy ending there was they lost the World Series, but Billy Beane learned that he changed the game, right? So we're really talking about communicating the progress as part of this as well. Now, to do that, as I mentioned earlier, once we've kind of shown them that we're the one to be there, we have to help them identify, or we have to identify the conflict with them and understand what is the barrier, the obstacle that's keeping them from meeting their objectives and getting those outcomes they're looking for. And generally, the way we do that within BCIO Toolbox is building out our IT assessment, right? Here we're looking at gaps in the company's process, systems, security, end user training. And these gaps are what drive the projects we want to sell them, but are also gaps that might tie back to some of the reasons they haven't achieved the success that they've built out in the strategy plan overall. So really, when we get to this part of the journey with the customer and we're telling the story, we need to help them see the gaps that they can't see themselves. Our job as that guide to their conflicted character is really helping them understand, hey, part of the reason you're not hitting that outcome under your business, your business goal that you're trying to get. Let's just use for now, I want to expand my business and grow my revenues as the business goal. Well, one of the reasons you're not hitting those gaps is your team is inefficient because they're working on outdated, now I can go through my gaps list. We've got outdated hardware. We've got software that isn't current. We've got antiquated authentication processes, so it's challenging for them to get in there. Your help desk is tasked to answering, user questions in this process. We don't have efficient internal and external communication systems, so we can't share information with prospects and customers, and that's inhibiting our ability to expand our revenues and grow our company. Whatever this, you're going to shape the stories that are there, but these gaps combined with what we understood on the strategy pages, their outcomes are really going to give you the blueprint for how you can be a better guide and how you can take them to the next level in this process. The other thing we want to do when we're highlighting areas of concern is let them know where the impact of those concerns are going to be too. Not all challenges we see as we build our conflict statement are equal. So we really want to make sure that as the Sherpa, we're making the customer hit those areas of big concern up front and then guiding them to the next level of problems that will round out the ultimate outcome. And then we need to start seeding the solutions. We've already proven ourselves to be the character that's going to help guide them forward in this story. Now we need to start seeding the solution. Hey, based on what I'm seeing here, there are definitely some things that we can do to improve the outcome of your, improve the way your team communicates, improve the way that they engage customers externally, and certainly make sure that we're shoring up the security holes that really could be a reputation risk for you too. If we do those three things, you're going to be on your way to increasing revenues because you're going to have a more productive and trained staff through that process. So again, whether you buy into what I just said there in terms of the follow-ups, when we look at the conflict the customers has, we have to kind of think about the solution a little bit. And before we get into introducing the projects, start really seeding how you're going to drive the business forward and lean on those outcomes that you were taught during the business goals and business challenges to drive that conversation. So now we get to that step where we call it to action. In the world of BCIO Toolbox, that call to action is your roadmap, right? We are going in there and we're telling the customer, based on the findings of our assessment, based on the findings that have identified where your conflict is, and what are the barriers for you achieving those goals that you've set out, these are the tools, these are the projects, these are the services that you're going to need to engage to get there. And again, putting on that Sherpa or guide hat, you're also putting them into a sequence that brings logic to the customer. And because you've built that trust and confidence along the way, now that timeline looks, is clear to the customer and they believe in why. So now you can share with the customer, look, we've got a number of projects, but Rome wasn't built in a day, right? We need to make sure that we're spreading out these projects and we're taking the ones that are going to bring you the biggest impact and do them up front. And then as we continue on our journey, we're going to do other projects that are going to continue to enhance. But some of these projects have to be sequenced in this order because to get the benefit long-term, we got to do A before B, right? And now we're able to work through them with these recommendations. And we're also disarming the customer. So I go back to that pure financial report approach, right? Here's all the things that we did from performance, kind of the show up and throw up of what we've done as an MSP. Now we go put the roadmap in front of them. And how many of you have experienced in the past that as soon as you do that, the customer goes, oh, great. So this was really just a sales call, right? And, and because there was no story, there was no narrative, there was no buildup, there was no acceptance and bargaining along the way, we now hit this point where the customer is just, okay, I've already heard performance, very dry. And now you're telling me these new things initiatives I need to do. Do I really need them? Why do I care, right? So by taking the steps of telling a story, you're helping the customer along the way understand where the problems live, how they're expanding beyond what they might be able to see alone. And now when we're pushing these recommendations to the customer, we're showing them in a way that, hey, this is the map to your solution. This is not a one-stop journey. These are the steps you have to take. This is what these steps are going to cost, because hey, nothing's free in life, right? You want to win, you got to work, if you will, right? If you want success, it doesn't come free. So these are the steps that we're going to have to take. But let's be clear, when you take these steps, and this is that goal and alignment process we have in VCIO Toolbox, we're going to help you map it back to your strategy. And we're going to, or we wouldn't tell the customer that, but I'm going to clearly show you where we're going to contribute to hitting those goals by doing these projects. So we can really make the alignment. Again, what I'm showing here on the right-hand side, and I'm sorry I wasn't clicking them a few moments ago, but it's communicating those quick wins at the front of that roadmap so you can get the bigger buy-in a little bit later during that process as well. And making sure the customer understands how the quick wins are going to impact their company. We want them to see that they're going to support those strategic outcomes. And again, if I say there's anything that we prescribe to in our system that, I hope you're all leveraging, building that strategic plan and aligning goals and challenges helps your customer make a more informed decision. Right now, in most of our relationships, our customers do believe in us and they do have confidence, so they buy from us in blind faith. But how many of you have had that challenge where all of a sudden trust gets tested because something happened technologically out of our control even that has now caused a question mark to come up in the relationship? We want to make sure that we have an ability to support those types of moments and say, look, I'm not asking you to do this, Mr. Customer. As your advisor, though, I'm showing you this is kind of how you're going to gain the benefit. And we show that again through the goals and challenges that form a business case behind each project. So we're really helping that non-technical customer. A lot of them are general business people, maybe a little bit tech savvy, but not IT pros, really clearly be able to understand and see why they need to make the investment we're asking for. And really look at it as an investment instead of a cost if we do a good job in this journey, right? Because we're showing them, no, this is a short-term investment that's going to yield you long-term rewards once we get the outcome that you've asked for in your strategy page. So, this will take some practice, guys. There's no doubt. You just don't wake up one day doing it. But what I want you to think about as you're preparing your QBRs, really think of it from that story you're trying to tell lens with your customer. How do we make sure that we're putting them as the central figure in the story, that they know this is all about them. And oh, by the way, if we do a good job, the guide gets what they want too. In our case, it's the projects, but the guide gets that companionship, that loyalty, or whatever the other case may be from that central character. So, how do we tell the story? Ultimately, success comes in many forms. I thought one of the most poignant moments during Castaway was at the end, and it's something you just don't think about. When Tom Hanks was finally rescued, and, he was up in that jet plane, and later in the scene that you see here, it was the little things that amazed him. Ice, something he hadn't had for years. And just that feeling of, wow, success for him was just having ice in his glass again. So not all success needs to be large scale. We really have to look at those outcomes and make sure at every step of the way we're showing the customer progress. At the end of that movie, Tom had ice for the first time in 20 years. A little bit later, he was looking at exploring the world again, right? And getting on with his life. And we want to help our customers grow to those bigger outcomes. The way we tie this all together, is through that strategic plan, as I've kept alluding to here. This is where we can help our customer draw the conclusion. Did we match up our project to the need that they had? Are we creating that outcome? Can we confirm that outcome's been done? So let's just take, the first one, right? Growth through M&A that I've got listed here. Customer added a camera system. You might not look at that as being something that's helping with M&A, but if you're taking over a new facility with new employees who are now under your guidance instead of the guidance of their previous ownership, you want to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do, that they're not disgruntled, things like that. And camera systems can at least tell you when people are coming and going, and are they coming late and leaving early, right? Those kind of things that might tell you that they're dissatisfied. So while that technology doesn't at its surface really look like it's something that's supporting M&A, when you dig into it, it really does. It just gives you the ability to kind of see what's going on afar and make sure and look at it objectively. Implementing network access control. As new assets come into our systems, are we doing the things that we need to secure it? Are we making sure that we're not going to cause bigger issues in our networks? So these are things that we can really draw a conclusion on, share that conclusion with the customer as the guide, and find out from them if they're really feeling those outcomes. And sometimes they'll tell you, I never really thought I was going to feel it as an outcome, but I now understand how it just plays a partial role in satisfying that goal, but a critical role, right? And then we just repeat the process. So guys, that's really, my approach to how to use storytelling in your QBR, or at least to leverage the framework that a storyteller might use to drive your QBR. And I will promise you this, the more you get into a narrative with your customer where you're looking at them and wanting to be their guide, and you want to hear from them where they're trying to go, the more engaged that customer becomes, the more they feel like you've got their best interests at heart. And you're going to be shocked. This is stealth selling, man. The win for you is all that sales friction you have when it comes time to do the project will start melting away with the majority of your customers. Nothing's absolute. You'll still have some cranks out there that don't love to part with the dollar, right? But realistically, you are going to see more and more people engage with you at a high level. So with that, I want to thank those of you that attended today, and certainly would love to hear your feedback. If you agree or disagree or think I'm all full of it here. And with that, I will also open up the floor for our Ask Me Anything session. So if you've got any questions for me, whether they be about the storytelling conversation we had today or anything within BCIO Toolbox, I want to use these coaching opportunities as an opportunity for you to ask those questions and get the answers you need. Please feel free to drop those into chat or into Q&A. And if you're shy, you can always send me an email after this call as well to bdoyle@bciotoolbox.com. While I'm waiting for any questions to come into the chat today or into the Q&A, I do want to say to everybody, I hope everybody's having a great holiday season. I think we may get one more coaching session in before the rest of the year, but this may be the last coaching session for this year, but we got a lot in store for 2023. And, if you've got anything you would like us to cover in coaching, a problem that you're encountering, and guys, this doesn't have to just be around the BCIO or BCISO process here. I want to hear your, what you're struggling with. And if I can't get those answers, I'll bring somebody on that can help out. So with that said, we've got a minute left. I've got no Q&A going on here. You guys are a quiet bunch. But I hope you found some value in what we did today. I hope you found some things that you can implement into your presentation process. And let's go get them out there, man. There's a lot of opportunity to be had and a lot of people to be helped. So let's be servants for the industry and make it happen. For those that I don't speak to again, have a great holiday. Keish, thank you so much. Kish, I really appreciate that. We try our best over here. So thanks for joining in with us. And, I think I saw you jumped in a little bit late today. You will be getting a recording of this as well. And for anybody that is still on the call, these recordings, of course, go up into our university under our Tuesday coaching calls as well. But if anybody has any other questions or doesn't have any other questions, I'll give you a couple minutes back in your day. And I look forward to seeing you on our next call.